Hello, everyone. Welcome back to USC Coliseum Chronicles Live on the Voice of College Football, USC. I'm Terence Holton, joined alongside my co-host, Casey Kasler, and it is a fantastic day, a fantastic week. USC football is back. But first,
College football is even more exciting when you've got some action on the line, and the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the Voice of College Football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread, and I've got a 40-plus year track record. 11-0 in the college football playoff for me last year against the money line, 8-3 against the spread. And I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill of Wager Talk is our ace in the hole, show stopper. 7 years with the Voice of College Football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick. 28-12 against the spread the last 3 years. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Corey Bratta, Matt Zemek, and Steve Dace. Check out those numbers. Become a YouTube or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click join, and then select a betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2025 a winner now.
all right, well, Casey, as I just alluded to right before that, it's USC game week. USC football is officially back, taking on the Missouri State they're not the Tigers, that's Missouri. Taking on Missouri State Bears. Thank you. It's a phenomenal time. It's the best time of the year.
Yeah, I mean, it feels great, when you're USC and you have a few pretty, light games to start. You got Missouri State, Georgia Southern, Purdue. It's a pretty good first 3 games. And I mean, we'll focus, week by week, but, going into Missouri State, the depth chart, we're getting, some news, even kind of up to the minute news. Should we go into it? About 45 minutes
just
ago.
about to mention, Casey.
Yeah.
1 second, having some technical difficulties. Give me a second. But yeah, we're kind of having some really up to the minute type of information because we were really concerned about what we thought that depth chart was going to look like with DJ Wingfield no longer eligible. So now we're getting a little information. This is on Twitter. Shotgun Spratling, USC Insider, soon to be Casey Kasner, also at our practices. We'll be going to practices. Casey a lot more than I will, fortunately, due to my work schedule. But he says from practices, Lincoln Riley's words, both Tobias Raymond, Alani Noah are going to start. Lots of starters, as you see his projected depth chart down here. Elijah Page at left guard, Tobias Raymond light guard, left guard, John Ray Reed at the center, and Killian O'Connor, as well as Alani Noah and Justin Tuanu. Casey, what are your initial thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I was really surprised to see Toanua starting. I know he started a little bit last year as a freshman. He has the size. I believe he's 6'6", 310 pounds. But like you said, there was such a black hole at the left guard position just because you're losing Wingfield. Do you start Banuelos, who, is young? Where do you go from there? You have guys on the bench, but, you might have to move some stuff around. Elijah Vicona is also there. I don't know if I would have expected them to put Toanua at the right tackle position just because, playing on the exterior is going to be tough for a young guy like that. But we also saw a second-year player last year in Elijah Page play on the outside and get better as the season went on. And I think the thing that's good about Justin Toanua not playing on the left guard position is he's not playing on the blind side. So he has some time to sort of adjust at right tackle. I really do like Tobias Raymond, though, and I think he would have been really good at right tackle. I mean, we know he's good at right tackle. But really no surprises. I will say, though, is the John Ray Reed / Killian O'Connor split going to be just for this game or the whole season? Or is it like a game-by-game evaluation? Because I think, John Ray Reed is, miles better than Killian O'Connor.
I'll go with the route of it's just this game. I think it's going to be pretty circumstantial I think John Ray Reed is going to start at center most games. However, I could totally see him moving to guard and maybe moving to left guard. You move Raymond out to that right tackle position, filling in when they have tougher opponents. I think they are trying to test I'm butchering his name, excuse me. I think they're trying to test him out on that right tackle spot a little bit, like you talked about, not putting him right into the heat. Obviously, it is Missouri State, but on that blindside spot, we trust Elijah Page at this point there. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see Killian O'Connor starting at center down the line at bigger games and maybe moving John Ray Reed out into the guard, or maybe vice versa. I'm not sure what you think about that.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I've seen depth chart evaluations where that's been sort of the case. I mean, it hasn't necessarily been Killian O'Connor, but it's been somebody at center and then John Ray Reed playing on the interior somewhere else. So I could see that happening. I think, again, it's kind of like a game by game thing. 2 years ago, we saw how much better Jonah Monheim was, and it was a similar thing. We could see him move around when Justin Dedich was playing center. So I think really Lincoln Riley has trust in his veterans on the O-line, and I know John Ray Reed's obviously first year at USC, but he has a lot of experience. So that's something to keep tabs on. And let's remember that this is Jaden Mayava starting week 1, not Miller Moss, as opposed to last year. So, you have a lot more flexibility. I know Mayava, when he's under pressure, he tends to make bad decisions, but it's not like Miller Moss where he can't move at all. So I think it's big.
This is a good question. How much does the center depend on the QB's preference? I do think, obviously the most important connection to have on the field is probably that center and quarterback connection, making sure they're in sync at all times. So I do think there is a certain level of talent, though, that you're not getting with O'Connor that you have with Reed. That guy's a 4-year starter versus Killian O'Connor. Obviously, talented player, played well in that Texas A&M game. However, it's a lot less experience, and center is a position personally, I think, probably the second most important on the offense.
Probably.
Yeah, I think so, right?
Yeah.
I think it is one where you need a lot more experience. And that's, once again, it's not discrediting Killian O'Connor. John Reed is just so much more experienced than him.
I want to ask you, Terrence, last year, I mean, this is a pretty similar O-line we saw last year. Obviously, Mason Murphy was starting. How much better has this O-line improved, in your opinion?
Dude, it's tough to say. I'm not going to lie. Because Jonah Monheim was obviously a massive part of that. He was playing pretty well in the preseason. I saw for Jacksonville, one of the few guys not giving up sacks of those later round picks, those later round offensive linemen. I don't know. I should have seen his status because cut day was recently. I didn't see if he made the final squad or not. But he was obviously instrumental for that offensive line. I think Elijah Page is going to be a lot better. I like Tobias Raymond a lot. John Ray Reed, Alani Noah is good. It's just the problem is, one of these guys, whether it's Tuanu or Killian O'Connor, I once again apologize to Noah. I'm botching his name every single time. It's just a lack of knowing what you're going to get. You thought one of those guys was going to be DJ Wingfield, and now it's not. So I think that's the problem, is one of these guys just being thrust in there when maybe they didn't expect it. Maybe Lincoln Riley knows that they are this talented, and of course, I'm sure they are. But it's also a whole thing of, we thought this one guy was going to start up until a week ago. Well, a couple weeks ago, obviously, when we learned that he may not be eligible. But, that's when the news really broke.
Yeah, I mean, we only saw Toa Nua play 3 games last year, one of which was the Utah State game where USC sort of emptied the bench at a certain point. Yeah. The Rutgers game, and then Texas A&M, the bowl game, where there was obviously going to be changes. The sample size is small, but he's a former 4-star. He has a lot of accolades out of high school. Funny story, anecdote personally, when I worked for the football team freshman year doing, the recruiting stuff. And he was one of the higher profile recruits for USC. Really cool guy. I got to talk to him actually for a long time. He seemed like he really understood what USC was all about, which is huge. But besides the point, I think he's a guy that he has really good size for a sophomore. 6'6", 310 pounds is what he's listed out right now. So I think it's really intriguing. But at the end of the day, that O-line needs to really take that big step, like you mentioned.
Yeah, and I mean, that's one of the most difficult parts. We always talk about how the offensive line is going to be one of the hardest groups to really group together and get that cohesion and that chemistry, especially when it's a bunch of transfers, new guys. And obviously, it is less transfers now that Wingfield isn't eligible. Not that I'm saying that's a good thing, but I think it's interesting. It could be interesting looking forward into that chemistry.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's one of those position groups that, I mean, we mentioned it. the biggest change is losing Monheim, but I mean, losing Mason Murphy is an upgrade. So I very much agree with you when you say you don't know how to evaluate. Has it gotten better or worse? Because we don't really know. We also don't really know how it's gonna sort of know the adjustment to the Big Ten physicality, because there were certain games last year where clearly it wasn't adjusted. So I think the O-line's intriguing, but I think another position group we've talked about quite a lot on this channel is the D-line. They're seemingly looking very good in practice right now from what I've heard.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about the D-line so much. Our preview way back when, during I think it was the spring when we did it, our D-line preview, I said it was the probably best unit the USC has. I think depth-wise, I think talent-wise, they're just phenomenal. So not to just switch from O-line to D-line, but I really like the defensive line.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you and I could talk for so long about the best position group. I might counter that with receivers, just because I feel like I just
a lot of unproven. You could say the same about the defensive line, of course.
True, but
I think there's a lot of unproven.
Kai Lemon, Jacoby Lane are like two blue chip NFL prospects.
That is fair. That is very fair.
And then even freshmen like Tanook Hines, Corey Sims, and then you got Prince Strawn too. Like the depth there, and Jay Fair is reliable at some point.
Don't discredit DJ Jordan too, formerly Xavier Jordan.
Yeah, yes, exactly. DJ Jordan, who I think is set for a pretty big year.
Yeah, should be great.
Yeah.